Good morning and welcome to Goodness Gracious. You're not used to seeing me on this side of the camera, but here I am, and I'm here to interview for this video series Jane Mansley. For those of you that don't know, Jane Mansley is the wife of our pastor, Cliff Mansley. So, I have a few questions for Jane. Welcome.
Hi,
welcome.
thank you.
So glad you're here.
I'm so glad to be here.
It's been a while getting the two of us
Yes,
together
yes.
during this unique time of our world today.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to ask you a little bit and what you'd like to tell our audience about where you grew up, how you grew up, and things like that. Where you went to
Sounds
high
great.
school.
Will do. So I was born in St. Paul, Minnesota. My dad was a controller, vice president of finance in hospitals all of his career. Mom taught school and then stayed at home. I have a younger brother, Charlie, who's about 2.5 years younger than I am. And so we lived in St. Paul, and then as Dad moved, we moved. So we were in Cincinnati, Ohio for 8 years. And we moved from Cincinnati, Ohio to Rock Island, Illinois when I was in the middle of 6th grade. And that was really hard.
I'll bet.
That was really
Because
hard.
you've made a lot of friends
Yeah.
at that point.
So I was not super easy to deal with at that stage.
You weren't a good girl?
No, not really good. No, more like selfish and pouty. Got over myself, graduated from high school in Rock Island, Illinois. So that's where I went to high school. And all along the way, Charlie and I were raised in the church. So strong Sunday school teaching, strong biblical preaching, strong vacation Bible school experiences. And then when I got to high school, I actually went to a choir camp in Illinois outside of Chicago. And it's really strong Bible-based singing, but then also studying. It was just great. So really immersed in Jesus, loved Jesus, just grew up in a very rich, Jesus-loving home. And that was a huge blessing.
And vacation Bible school and summer camps are so important,
Yes.
aren't they?
They're just the best.
They're like these mountaintop experiences that you hang on to for the rest of your life.
Yes.
And you try to bring some of that spirit home.
Yeah.
But it's never the same
No, it's
as
great.
when you're
And I
away.
had a best friend until she moved my sophomore year. She and I went to camp together. And then her family moved to a different part of Illinois. And then one of my other best friends that I competitively swam with, her family was like Assembly of God. So that was very different because we were Lutheran, but then Methodist, but then Evangelical Presbyterian, but then Methodist, but then, that. So, I would oftentimes go to church events with her, and that was like really different and cool and loved it. So anyways, swam competitively from the time I was, little. Little.
So I'm sure you're missing the swimming pool
I
right
am
now.
totally missing. I'm like ready to riot the swimming pool closures because I'm thinking chlorine, it's over 100, nothing is alive, but whatever.
Yeah.
So did that. And then my dad took his last job before he retired in Wichita, Kansas. And I never lived there, so to speak. My folks did. And then I went to the University of Oklahoma. And that's where I studied elementary education. And
Go Sooners, for those that don't know.
and then graduated. And when my dad finally retired, my folks moved to Tucson.
So that's your connection to Arizona, besides moving here right now.
Right. And so Tucson, until my mom died 4 years ago, they were in Tucson 20 plus years. And so for Abby and Sam, Grandma and Grandpa equals Arizona. Because from the time they were born and little bitty, we flew to see Grandma and Grandpa 2-3 times a year. Everything they associate with my parents is Arizona. So it's like a second home for them. It's really kind of neat.
And pretty soon you're all going to be together, all 4 of you.
Woohoo!
The whole
Yes.
family.
I
all
hope.
4 of you.
Well, Cliff is supposed to fly tomorrow. We have to pray that doesn't get changed.
Yeah, we
Or
do.
canceled. What we need to do is get him to Fort Smith. Once he's there, we're good. Because then they're going to drive back.
Mm-hmm.
That they can take, that can take as long. We just need to get them together. So hopefully, he'll get there just fine. But anyway, so so that's kind of childhood, growing up, high school,
and so,
college.
And how has God had an impact on your life?
Right.
Through you choosing your career and following Cliff around wherever he goes.
Exactly. A lot of places.
Yeah.
So after I graduated, I took my first teaching job in Richardson, Texas, and had asked our pastor in Wichita, like, where should I go to church? Because I was moving to the Dallas area, didn't know anybody, didn't know where to go to church. So he recommended Highland Park. And he just said they have a really strong, like, professional singles group where you can make strong friendships, where you can meet other single people that are working like you, but Bible studies, all that. So I did that, and the Sunday school class had about 150 single people in it.
Wow. I know. 150 people in Sunday school.
A whole bunch of us, like 20-somethings. And so I just ended up going. I met Melissa Freeman at the time. Scholl now is still to this day my best friend from that class. She was just here in March to see us, and we for 30 plus years we've just been like this. But made lots of friendships. Wonderful singles pastor. He and his wife would go out of town for conferences, and I would go and live and take care of their little girl, elementary aged girls. Mm-hmm. They had 2. Because they trusted me. And so I would just move into their house and stay with them, and then I would move back to my little apartment. But that is how eventually I met Cliff. And so then that was a good connection. I prayed a lot about, I knew he was a youth pastor. I knew he wanted to be a senior pastor, a solo pastor, an associate, just whatever. I knew ministry. My dad laughed. He laughed. He's like, you are not going to be a pastor. I was like, thanks. But just felt like that was something I grew up with. I loved it. I loved serving. I was teaching. I loved kids. So then we got engaged, and then he moved to Oregon to do youth ministry at that big youth ministry up there that he grew. And so we were apart for a year, and I taught.
Wow.
I taught my last year in Dallas. He went to Lake Oswego, and then we got married the following summer in Dallas, and then I moved up and taught school in Lake Oswego. And then from there it was just wherever the Lord was calling us to do, whatever. And I feel like as a pastor's wife, my most important role is to just support him and to encourage him and to just love him and to spur him on. But I also feel like I have places within the ministry that I can serve, and I just wait for God to kind of open those doors and show me.
Well, and that was one of the things that I was pleased about when we called you, is that we realized we were calling Cliff as the pastor. We weren't calling you to be the pastor's wife. We were calling you just to come to our church and be part of our family. Yeah. And that you would find the things you want to be involved in, and that there would be no expectation on you to do anything.
And that's the most helpful thing. I think, it's for me to be able to just encourage the ministry. Mm-hmm. And I know where God has gifted me, and I know that that's where he'll show me, like, okay, when we had those kids coming, I was like, okay, I can do this. I'll be happy to take the kids. Or like Bible study. I love Bible study and coming with, because you are so wonderful.
Thank you.
And so just the best facilitator, and that whole fellowship of those women, and it's so genuine, and I just love that. So just to encourage where I can be an encourager, that's the most important thing, I think. But yeah, and I'm willing to move.
No, we don't want you to move
no, not now.
We don't want you
But
to
I mean, like we went from Oregon to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and from Pittsburgh to Missouri, and it's like a wow. But I had grown up moving because of my dad and mom, and so it wasn't hard to do that. It's hard to leave people, but
terribly.
that it is, and you know that.
Yeah.
But then you meet new people, and you're just blessed.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So, the last thing before we cut this off, I was wondering if you had any words that you want to tell the viewers about worship or about relationship or what it means to be at Grace Community Church.
Well, this is such a wonderful fellowship family. It's just wonderful. It's a genuine group of loving believers and people just encouraging one another, always there for one another, praying for one another. It's been so hard to not be able to just, go. Like you want to go, I want to just go and be with Jane Miller and just hug her and love her and bring her food and sit with her, and yet we're not allowed. That is the hardest thing.
Yes.
And just, I miss all the women from Bible study. I miss just being in worship and being able to see people and this. Yeah. And that is what this church is all about. And so I think it's been so hard because the relationships here are real and they're genuine, and there's no pretense. People just love each other for who you are, where you are. It's just great. It's just...
We have the vertical relationships, but we also have the horizontal relationship. I think I did that wrong.
That's okay. We know what you mean.
We have the relationships with God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit, but we also have very strong relationships with one another.
With one another, and they all just mesh so well. And it's just terrific. Yeah. So, yeah, we love being here, and this is such a wonderful, and it's just been so hard to not be together.
Yeah, absolutely. But as we've been apart from one another, we've been doing a lot of these interviews, and I just want to let you all know now that Jane is going to be one of our other hosts for Goodness Gracious. So you're going to be seeing Jane's face a little bit more on this side of the camera as we get to know, as you all allow us to interview you so that we can get to know your story a little bit more and how God has blessed you through your life. So I'm not going to say what Pastor Cliff usually says as a closing, but keep the Lord right there, right here. Keep your Bible open. Keep the Lord right there present in your life, and we will get through this unique situation in our time together while we're apart, but together. Blessings, and we look forward to seeing more of you in the weeks to come.
Yay.
Bye-bye.